to Life Expressions. I'm your host, Shari Hineti Elon. Today we'll be talking about the teaching profession, how to maximize the learning opportunities for students despite the different style in learning. And of course, I'd be happy to share with you the experience and the insights from my guest today, who took teacher education to fulfill a longing. And I must say, he has grown in his profession because he loves it. He believes people flourish when what they do is aligned with what they desire deep within them. This pandemic year, he was appointed as Vice President for Research, Innovation, and Linkages, and his work has been to help the administration of the Consolacion College Bacolod find stability as it navigates its way out of this disruption towards sustainability. Please welcome to my show, Life Expressions, Mr. Rodjhun Navarro. Hi, Rodjhun.
Hello, Chari. It's good to be talking to you again after a while.
Yes, yes, and I'm happy to finally have this chance to talk to you. And of course, before I continue, I would just like to thank you for suggesting the title to my podcast. I love it, Life Expressions.
And thank you for even, considering to ask me about what could be a possible title for your shows. Having been a fan of yours since back in the 90s when you were doing TV Patrol, I really consider you as an inspiration. So just for the fact that I get to be asked about the title of your show is already a big honor for me. So thank you for doing that.
Wow, wow. What else can I say? Thank you so much. Anyways, Rajan, you are admired not just being a school administrator, but as a teacher as well. Let us start with your teaching philosophy. What is your teaching philosophy?
Oh, thank you very much for the kind words, for saying that I am admired. Well, people admire people who can sense, I think, the soul in what they are doing. And I have come to reckon my philosophy because when I first wanted to become a teacher, I thought of it as a career. But later on in the teaching profession, it has become some sort of vocation, and I realized what the mission of teaching really is. And I think having a philosophy for teachers like me is very important because it becomes the very foundation of their practice. So for me, reckoning from all of my experience, I'm now thinking that the reason why I'm in this kind of profession because I believe that there's a truth hidden or planted in each and every one of us that's meant to be unleashed, that's meant to be discovered. So I think that my teaching practice has always been built around knowing that I can help students be able to discover what is there for them to discover for themselves, that there's a spark of God, as we would say it, in La Consolacion College Bacolod, where I teach. There's really a spark of God in each and every one. And so uh, my philosophy has been that I should be able to help children or students discover that spark of God within them, the truth within them, so that they will be able to realize to fulfill whatever their purpose is of being around in this planet, I guess.
Wow, that's great. Rajan, how many years have you been teaching?
Oh, I'm into my 20th year
Wow,
already.
20th year. And for sure, you've got a lot of experiences teaching. And now it is a little bit different because of COVID-19 pandemic. You are teaching virtually, I suppose. Are you?
Yes, there's in currently in the Philippines, there's no choice but to deliver education virtually, considering that it's still not very safe to go back to in-person classes.
So, how would you describe or tell us the difference between teaching online and in person?
Oh, there's a lot of difference. First of all, let's look at the positive side.
Yes.
I think that what this pandemic has brought us is that it pushed us to really go into the digital frontier to take advantage of the technologies that are available for us to continue our day-to-day life, to keep the economy working for all of us. So one key difference is that this is more like technology based now. So there's a question of access because not many people have access to technology.
Yes.
So the difference is that when students are inside the classroom, there's not much disparity, especially, for example, in schools like LCC where students are in uniform. And the reason why we even make the students wear uniform is to promote equality among them so that they don't get to be discriminated by their, people tend to judge people by the way they look.
Yes.
So in a classroom setting, you could, there's that type of environment or atmosphere where everybody seems equal because they're seated together. But in this time now where this is really technology based, there's a greater disparity differences between, the economic background of our students. So some have access to strong internet connectivity. Some students don't have access to strong internet connectivity. Some students have conducive environment at home, while some others they don't have those. So those are the key differences.
Right.
Um, when it comes to interaction, of course, there's a lot of difference there because in the classroom students can feel each other physically. They can use all their five senses to,
Yeah.
interact with each other. But virtually you can only use your sense of sight and your sense of, hearing. So that's very limiting, and you're constrained with the psychological environment of your home. So when you are in, like in the Philippines, most of our students live in very big family setups. So they would have their younger siblings at home. They would have their all the other family members. They don't necessarily have. I mean, some students don't have the space for them.
Yeah.
A conducive space for them to attend their classes. So you get all sorts of disruption, psychological disruption, in while attending your classes if you were a student. So those are the really the major differences of
Yes.
teaching and learning at
Yeah.
this time.
What about the challenges for you in making sure that you are able to engage these students online?
Yes. So some schools are deliver their education purely LMS based, meaning that they're using learning management software. Like in my school, we're using Google Classroom. So some of our students who have access to internet connectivity and those who have computers at home or even just a smartphone, they could attend Google Meet classes. So where they could interact with their classmates and with their teachers on a regular basis, just like they're attending day-to-day classes. But for students who do not have access to technology, they're constrained with just doing their classes through printed modules. So
Okay.
that's where engagement really is a problem because there's
Yeah.
no interaction. And if we're talking about 21st century skills that really emphasizes communication, collaboration, critical thinking, and creativity, it's really very limiting if you're just constrained with answering your worksheets,
Yeah.
and missing on actual interaction with your classmates and when you're with your teachers. So
Yeah.
how are we engaging our students? It's very important that the teachers are able to recognize that students are not blank. They don't have blank, blank. Their mind is not like a blank sheet of paper where the teacher is only the source of information. That's
Correct.
old school.
Yes.
Mo- what we believe is that our students attend our classes already with a wealth of experiences. So to engage them is to tap into that experiences because it will be very easy, or it will be easier for them to understand the concepts that you are introducing or you are talking about in your classes if they can recognize that in with respect to what they have experienced in life so far. There's a greater connection and connectivity, and once you have successfully done that right at the beginning of your lesson,
Yeah.
then you will not have any problem engaging your student because they will become interested in your class
Yeah.
because they know they will have the confidence to take on the activities and the lessons,
Yeah.
banking from their own what they already know from their own experience.
Yes, but how did you adjust, like especially from in person and to virtual teaching? How did you adjust? What did you have to do to ensure that you have the necessary skills to reach out to these students?
Well, technologically, I would say that that's well, for some people, there's a lot of challenge technologically because they will now have to really learn how to use the digital tools
Yeah,
for doing online classes. But
yeah,
for me, I think the biggest adjustment that teachers had to really face
mhm,
with this new modality is the emotional, not only teachers, in fact, but even students, the emotional adjustments that this will require because there you are detached from, even though you are technology now enables you to connect virtually, but
yeah,
the real connection that only happens by being actually there, fully present in a classroom, is missing.
yes,
So, uh, uh, human beings, we are really political beings. We are social animals.
yeah,
Somebody, a philosopher said that. We are
yeah,
social animals, meaning to say it's really within our nature the need to interact and socialize,
yeah.
not only in a virtual sense, but in a physical sense. And I think that aspect is really missing. So, that's really one barrier that we are trying to really overcome with in distance learning, the emotional aspect
Yeah.
of that can only be achieved through real personal presence in in the classroom.
Can you recall a defining moment or a funny moment that occurred during this online learning and online teaching in your case?
There's really a lot of funny moments, but the funniest for me, I think, was 2 weeks ago.
Mhm.
But when we just started our new semester in school, and what the class that I'm doing now is a teacher certificate program. So it's a class that for those who want to qualify themselves as professional teachers but did not graduate from a teacher education program. So this one semester program allows them to earn the qualifications to become a professional teacher. So most of my students here are adult students. They're already working professionals.
Yes.
So it was really funny 2 weeks ago because that was just our second meeting in
Yeah.
this new semester. So
Yeah.
while waiting for the rest of the class, what I did was I played the recording
Mhm.
of the previous week's conferencing.
Yes.
So, but when students started to populate our online class,
Mhm.
many of them thought that the class has already started. They did not realize that what they are actually watching was a recording. So
Yes.
what you had there in that video was interaction. So I was there asking questions.
Mhm.
And what was funny was my students who arrived late in class and did not realize that that was a recording actually responded to the video.
Okay.
So I find that really one of the funniest experience for
Yes,
me.
sometimes you could not distinguish what was the recorded and what's live, especially if, well, if you come in late, that happens, right? Okay, can you share with us the rewarding experience of overcoming the challenges of virtual learning?
Yeah, I think most rewarding is that what I find really positive with this experience is that we have, I think, raised the digital competence of people
Yeah.
across generations. So we're not just talking about the younger generations who are already technologically savvy, as their generation was born with gadgets in their hands,
Yeah.
but we're talking about people from older generations
Yeah.
because now they have no choice but to learn,
Yeah.
and because there's now really focus on learning the technology, we have elevated the digital skills of people. So I think that's one of the successes of our experience.
Yeah, that is good because you could see the positive side of
Mhm.
all these challenges that we are facing. Could you also share with us the important teaching style that every teacher should imbibe to make sure that the students who try to learn virtually will get the most out of their learning process?
Yeah, I think one thing the teacher should really consider is that their classrooms is not a stage for them to perform. It's not spaces for superficial performance. Classrooms are space for the students to actually perform. So if your challenge is to get the students to learn from your class, you should provide them with all the opportunities so that they can showcase what they know. So that as a teacher, what you become is not anymore the stage on the stage,
Yeah.
but actually a guide at the side where your students are the real stars of your classroom. And what you do is to only point out what they are missing on as far as concepts or contents of your class is concerned, or give them the language that they don't have. But everything must come from the student's experience,
Yeah.
because we learn best by actually doing it.
Wow, that is wonderful. If all teachers are like you, all students will be inspired to show their best and do their best all the time in class, not just in class, but outside the classroom as well, virtual classrooms, if I may say. Okay, Rajan, what about your major realizations from this? Even if you have already mentioned the positive and the rewards of doing online learning, what about other realizations from this?
Yeah, I just like to point out, because you said that it's good that we're not only focusing on the negative of this pandemic experience. I'd like to say, Chari, that what I really thought of, we are not out of order, actually. I'm not glorifying the experience of this pandemic, but what I'm saying is that it's because of the actions of the past that has brought us to our reality now. What we did in our search for, wealth, in our search for accumulation of resources, was we have consumed the resources of the earth. So we have cut more trees, we have mined more lands, and we have infiltrated the barriers of the wildlife and civilization.
Yeah,
And so what's happening now is that we're getting the diseases that are originally meant for animals and not for human beings, because the forests, which serve as our natural barrier between the wild and humanity, we have already infiltrated them in our desire to consume more, in our desire to accumulate more resources. So that very important reflection, for me, is that what's then the role of teachers in this whole experience.
yeah,
Teachers really have a big role, in the sense that in our classroom we influence our students, and if we shape their minds in a way that redefines what they consider success, that success is not necessarily about accumulating wealth.
correct.
Success is not necessarily about having so much money. It's not measured by the amount of, your bank account.
Yeah,
But what success really is, being able to fulfill your purpose. And that means that recognizing that it is only through the act of service
yeah,
that you are able to achieve fulfillment.
mhm,
So when you use education as, a way for you to learn more about your abilities, about the gifts that God has given you, so that you can use, when you are able to enhance these gifts, when you're able to learn more skills and knowledge. And if your intention becomes that you will be able to use your proficiency or competence so that you can live a life of service, meaning to say that eventually you can use this
yeah,
to help others, or to elevate your community, to be able to contribute to society, then you are able to achieve fulfillment and success, not necessarily in terms of material wealth, because even, we have seen a lot of people who eventually died of suicide even though they have so much money.
yeah,
So so that means that, what will ultimately make us feel fulfilled is not necessarily the amount of money that we have,
yeah,
but it's really, at the end of the day, how much have we offered ourselves for others? How much have we made others happy? How much are we able to show that we are able to fulfill our life's purpose, because we have really mastered our skills and talents in such a way that we are now able to use them to help our communities. So I think that's one reflection that really changed my mind, even, with what I do now.
That is wonderful. You have mentioned the purpose of life. I've just recalled that Albert Einstein even once said that the purpose of life is to serve. And you have also mentioned that the act of service. So, for students, how are they able to do acts of service in their little ways? Could you?
Mhm. There's a lot of ways where one can do the act of service. Very basic is for you first to find out what it is that really makes you feel happy when you do that thing.
Yeah,
Just do that and do that with love.
yeah,
So whatever that is, it could be, you know, you could have some talent in singing, you could do, you maybe have some skills, you're maybe into leadership, you're maybe into journalism. There's a lot of ways you could do your acts of service. What's very important element there is do it with love. Do
wonderful.
it with the intention of really showing your best with whatever you're good at, and using that to finding a way for you to use that
Yeah,
to be able to be of service to other people, to the community. Could be to your family, could be to your classmates, could be
yes,
to, you know, even just, you know, your our the younger generations now, they really very tech savvy, and they're very much into social media, so they have social media pages. So instead of just, you know, using your social media page to show off or to rant about, you know, complaining, use that to communicate something positive, in such a way that you will be able to inspire others and to change the mindsets of other people. So yeah.
that is wonderful. That is inspiring as well. In closing, Rajan, could you share with us what drives you to continue to live your purpose?
Oh, thank you for that question. Because it's really one thing that, you know, I always ask myself each time I wake up, what excites me. You know, Paulo Coelho, he said that um, each day that you live is an opportunity for you to fulfill the miracle of life. So, so that's my drive. That connects, that quote really connects well so me to me, because I think that I'm just here to fulfill the miracle of life. So I'm looking forward at the day-to-day events in my life and see what, you know, those experiences reveal to me more about myself, and reveal to me more about what God has in store for all of us in this lifetime.
Wow, that is just wonderful. Talking to you is always a blessing. Thank you so much, Rajan.
Thank you for this opportunity, Cherry.
It is wonderful. And if I may say, there's just one quote that I have come across, and I would just like to remind all teachers out there in the world and even students to appreciate their teachers. The mediocre teacher tells, the good teacher explains, the superior teacher demonstrates, but the great teacher inspires. Thank you for inspiring, Rajan, and keep on inspiring us.
Thank you, Cherry.
Okay, this has been Life Expressions.